Hey, welcome to another episode of The Complete Advisor. I'm so happy you joined us here. Of course, The Complete Advisor, the podcast where we have conversations with successful advisors, no home office theory, maybe this will work, maybe it won't. It's conversations with real advisors about real topics in the real world. So my guest today, Brent Ford, Benefit Wealth Partners out of Wisconsin. Brent, great to have you here.
Dennis, super happy to be here.
Now, we have, I'm glad we're having this conversation. We've been recording all afternoon for your podcast. So I'm sneaking in a conversation here. And in fact, folks, if you look behind me, you can see a copy of Brent's book, which is fantastic. This is a killer book that you put out. It's not me, it's you. Literally like no other financial advisor book that I've ever read, which, by the way, available on Amazon for anybody who wants to buy it and try to replicate the magic that is Brent Ford.
I like it.
Yeah. Boost your sales and have some other advisors.
Hey, I'm buying after that.
Yeah. Hey, okay, so the thing that I wanted to talk to you about, you've got an amazing story that you told me once, and you've shared it before at one of our events. And what I wanted to talk about, kind of the theme, is really that public image that we put out there, because the reality is a successful advisor like you're at the stage where you don't need a big building. You've got a fantastic website. You've got the book. You kill it with different marketing. So people have that ability to find you. You have the ability to find clients through referrals through the whole nine. But you had a situation, and I'd love for you to tell this story, about your footprint in the real world versus your virtual footprint. But will you tell a story of you meet this guy on a plane? Go.
Yeah, so it's actually I had an appointment with him before I got on a plane. So my whole goal for my life has been to be able to run my sales process from wherever.
Yeah.
Basically off of a cell phone.
Yeah, the dream.
I'm
that's
a big
dream.
boater. I like to be on my boat.
Yep.
So when I was younger, I was like, man, if I could just run an appointment on my boat, then I'd be good. Mm-hmm. So that's been my build for the last, probably 10 years, is trying to move over to a virtual appointment only business. Mm-hmm. Tons of flexibility. So,
but with that, how far? You're very virtual now.
100% now.
100% virtual. Okay, 100%. That's 100%. Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't meet anybody in person now. Some of our old clients we have to do service calls and stuff, but
Sure.
Very rarely do we meet anybody in person. So I had a flight to catch in Denver airport, and I had a rental car to return, but I had an appointment with a gentleman. He's actually from Kansas. And I pulled over in the gas station, mm-hmm. flipped on my hotspot, and I ran my appointment with him. He had some Ed Jones investments. And by the time we were done with the appointment, he was so impressed. I'm signing over to you. And we don't allow people to do that. So on a first appointment for us, even if you love it, you're going to wait until we're really good. And this is part of the reason that we do it. So I take my flight, schedule an appointment with him next week. And by next week, he is like lukewarm on the whole thing. And then he basically all but disappears. So we finally are able to get a hold of him. And what ends up happening is he says that he looked us up online.
Yeah.
And he didn't see an office space. So he thought that we were,
fly by night.
Yeah, he didn't think that we were big enough to take his investments on. I don't necessarily know that he said that we were crooks.
Yeah.
But it was thinly veiled in that we didn't have a building.
But he literally, just if I remember the story right, he literally Googled and then did the street view, right?
Correct. Yes.
So he's literally looking at your office, your business address, and what would he have seen then?
Just an office building without any sort of
signage.
Yeah, we didn't exist in there. And here I am, I'm young, Dennis, and I'm sitting there going, I'm keeping my overhead low,
Sure.
and then I'm passing those savings on to my clients. Like that's a benefit, to them. And, I'm looking at this backwards facing, and I'm going, well, now here, look, I'm penalized for doing the right thing for a client.
Sure.
So my solution to said problem is the first story, which is like all windows around my building. It's a really old building. The first story came up for a lease. So I signed a 12-year lease, and then I put my logos on every window, every square footage of that thing. And it looks really good. It looks super modern. Creative One did the logos for us. And now it looks like when you pull up the Google Street View, it looks like we own the entire building. So that will no longer be an objection that I've had. But I've always recoiled at the advisor that needs all this money tied up in their office.
Sure.
When I was a young guy, I went to like one of those pump up events at IMO, and their most successful advisor came out, and he's like, what I want, Dennis. He didn't say Dennis, but he said, what I want is when a client comes in here, I want them to feel like they're too poor to be in the office space.
Yikes.
So they had gold-plated stuff all over the place, really high-end, and that was his image that he wanted to portray. And I thought, man, what a terrible thing that you're doing to your client to make them feel unworthy to be here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to be cognizant that people are looking for a certain type of relationship with somebody that has a certain amount of amenities to it. So I think we have to take, kind of a either or approach to it, or maybe
a little bit of balancing
both.
act.
Yeah, and the and or approach, I guess I should say.
Well, it's interesting because in the virtual world, that guy's never going to set foot in that building.
No.
He's never. I mean, chances are he may never visit the city that you're in, walk down that street. But I personally, when I look up an address, I do the Google Street View all the time. And in this world of virtual business, and you're 100%. In a way, you do have to have that storefront almost.
Well, as virtual as it is, it's still nice. I mean, even when I buy clothes, like I don't even know how to pronounce the brand, but they're like some stupid yoga pants. They're super expensive. I've been looking at them online forever.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy the pants until I went into a store and saw the pants hanging on the rack. And then I was like, well, I got to touch them and feel them and all that stuff. And I don't really like messing around with returns. So then I bought the pants. So I understand, even as technologically based as I am, that there's still some value to realize that there's a brick and mortar that exists, and that there's people that work in there, being good stewards of our assets.
Yeah. That's I think it's a good reminder, and we talk to advisors a lot about this, but what does your digital footprint look like? If somebody looks you up, what are they going to see? What is that going to look like? Even down to reputation management, the pictures that you have out there. If they hit an image, what are they going to see? That 1998 fraternity party that you snuck into, or are they going to see a nice professional photo of you? Different things like that.
Well, and I think in this day and age, you don't have a huge margin of error here, and basically any profession, not just ours, so you have to, to borrow a term from my grandpa, you have to keep your nose clean a little bit when you hit the internet, on this stuff. And if we're not looking at that on a consistent basis of what our footprint actually looks like, well, then we don't deserve to get the business anyways.
There you go. All right, we have talked our way around the barn all afternoon. That's for your podcast, and I appreciate you sharing that story. I think it's an important lesson, and some pretty good advice. So, Brent, thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.